a pair of global summits. The first in Rome, where leaders of the world's wealthiest nations will discuss the pandemic, climate change, and rising energy costs. The G20 summit will be their first face-to-face meeting in 2 years, and expectations are high. Delegates will then converge on Glasgow in Scotland for 2 weeks of make-or-break climate talks. The meeting has been described as the last best chance to get climate change under control. After touching down in Rome for the G20, U.S. President Joe Biden took the opportunity to visit Pope Francis at the Vatican. Biden is a devout Catholic and only the second Catholic president after John F. Kennedy. Following his meeting with the pontiff, Biden headed to talks with French President Emmanuel Macron. He was keen to repair relations with France after the U.S. and the United Kingdom agreed to provide Australia with nuclear-powered submarines. One day before G20 leaders begin their deliberations, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned the club of richest nations that they must do more to help poorer countries. And he issued a stark warning that all sides must come together to achieve a common cause.
We see dangerous levels of mistrust among the big powers, among members of the G20, between developed and developing countries, including emerging economies. And so the most important objective of this G20 summit must be to re-establish trust by tackling the main sources of mistrust, rooted in injustices, inequalities, and geopolitical divides.
We have team coverage tonight on the day. I'm joined now by our Brussels Bureau Chief, Alexandra van Namen in Rome, and our Washington Bureau Chief, Inez Pohl in Washington, D.C. Welcome to you both. Alexandra, to you first. Pope Francis and President Biden met up, arguably the world's two most famous Catholics. Inside knowledge on whether the two hit it off and what was on their agenda?
So they prayed for peace, and U.S. President Biden said that they also talked about the climate emergency and the moral responsibility to have to deal with the issue. And apparently Pope Francis was very focused on the impact of climate change on disadvantaged communities, according to the White House. They also talk about the coronavirus pandemic, and Pope Francis urged Joe Biden to do more to provide vaccines to poorer nations. And apparently Joe Biden said that they are moving heaven and earth to deliver those vaccines to poorer nations. And overall, we have to say that the U.S. president seemed to be very impressed by this meeting. He described it as wonderful. They spent 90 minutes together in Vatican, 75 of it in private.
Inez, the elephant in the room at the pontiff-president audience may very well have been abortion rights. Biden contentiously supports them amid a fierce debate stateside.
Yeah, it might be hard to believe for our international audience, but abortion has become indeed a leading issue here in the United States in the political debate. And President Biden never left any doubt from the very beginning on of his presidency, and even before when he was campaigning, that he's absolutely supporting pro-choice and that a woman should have the final say if she wants an abortion or not. But also, Michael, just hours ago, as Alexandra just pointed out, during this obviously very warm and happy meeting, the Pope announced that he believes that President Biden is, I quote, a good Catholic, and that he should continue to receive communion. And that means something, because there were many objections to that from conservative Catholics all around the world, and also bishops here in the United States.
I would say that's a bit of breaking news there, Inez. Alexandra, Biden also met his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron. U.S.-French ties have been strained recently over the AUKUS defense pact. Did they take meaningful steps to mend relations?
Well, I think yes. And my impression was that they were really determined to show that they're friends again and that they want to look ahead and not back. However, US President Biden acknowledged that the way his administration handled, or let's say communicated, the AUKUS partnership was not very clever, clumsy, as he put it. And he praised France as a very important partner, saying that there is no decent, no more loyal and decent U.S. ally. Both leaders agreed on a closer cooperation in the future in many areas. U.S. President Biden promised to provide more support for the French mission in the Sahel region, and he also stressed the importance of the French role in the Indo-Pacific region and the role the European Union is playing there. So I would say that this meeting was good for US President Joe Biden, but it was really a success for French President Macron.
Alexander, let's stay with you just for a moment. The G20 summit kicks off in earnest on Saturday ahead of the COP26 climate summit in Scotland, of course. What do world leaders need to achieve in Rome to lay the groundwork for Glasgow?
Well, they need to show that they are ready to take bold climate action, that they are ready to have more ambitious climate goals, that they are ready to agree on a date to phase out coal, for example, that they are ready to make good on their promise to provide 100 billion US dollars a year to help poorer nations combat climate change and its consequences. However, we have to say, when we look what's happening, we have no reason to be very optimistic. For example, Joe Biden's climate plan is stalled in Congress. China has already said that they are rejecting calls for more ambitious climate goals. So, as you can see, there is really, at the moment at least, no reason to be very optimistic here.
Back to you, Inez. Before Biden left for Rome, he announced plans for the biggest investment in climate action in U.S. history. Now we understand there's some sort of setback.
Right, just as Alexandra pointed out, I mean, the president was hoping to head to Glasgow with the political momentum of having passed and signed his environmental spending deal, and he was hoping to show the international community what he was able to achieve here at home, but instead he indeed comes empty-handed, as he didn't get his plans through, and that will definitely not strengthen his negotiation positions, and it will not put him into the position where he wanted to be, in the seat of the world leader for climate change.
Last question for you, Inez. The U.S. and China are the world's two top carbon emitters, yet Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping have not met face-to-face, and U.S.-China relations are at a low ebb. Is that poisoning efforts to achieve international consensus on climate?
Very good question, Michael. I mean, advisors to the president have said that the absence of China won't be an obstacle as they work to get a formal agreement on climate change policies, and that Biden and the rest of the West are hoping that the negotiations will showcase that the leading democracies are capable of working together to solve current and future threats to climate. But still, it is a symbolic signal from China by not sitting at the table, and it will make not only the talks much more difficult, but weaken any possible outcome, I think, even before the summit has started.
Let's see what comes out of this. That's Inez Pohl in Washington, D.C., of course, and Alexandra von Namen in Rome. Really appreciate your time.